What up, YouTube? Welcome back. All right. Today, I'm going to be talking about something I see a lot in society. Um, it's something that we as humans unnaturally do, like unconsciously do, but it's something that once you know, it's something that maybe we should try to fix. I fall victim to this a lot of times. I don't know what I would call it, but it's similar to like a micro transgression or like micro bullying. Like, let's take for example this. Um, your friend's getting into this hobby. You also share the same hobby, and you start creating a great relationship with them. Talking about this hobby, and all of a sudden, like like they slowly start fading away from this hobby. Like, they still love the hobby that you like. Like, let's say you guys both like watching like movies, like comedy movies, but they start recently watching more like horror movies, and like they start building their friendships. They start making friends that watch horror movies. So you start watching horror movies too, but you're not enjoying it as much as a friend. You don't tell them, but you don't tell them that you don't enjoy them, but unconsciously you're like making comments to them like, oh, it's all right, it's not that good to me, and personally it's not as funny as these comedy movies, something like that. Internally, like, you're not negatively, like, it might not seem negative to you, but like to the viewer themselves, like the one receiving the message, it kind of hurts them deep down inside. They might never tell you, but like it might personally affect you. From like experience, like from my experience I've seen a long time ago, like from a friend's perspective, like I used to have this great friend. We're still great friends today, one of my childhood best friends. But like when I would like talk about like other friends, like I can like see in his eyes, like he would kind of get like a little jealous himself. He's like, yo, why you? I could tell like he was mad that I was not hanging out with him as much. I mean, it felt like really awkward sometimes. Like, I never told him this like personally, like, but like I could see it sometimes. Like, I'm going to hang out with him, and then we're talking. He's like, oh, how did you learn about this? I was like, oh yeah, I learned about this from one of my friends at school. He was like, oh wow, oh interesting. Like, I was not trying to like take you down a notch, you know. I was just saying like truthfully what I heard. And like at the time, like he like it was not like this is not a negative situation. He would say I can like feel his emotions, so like it kind of like drove me back myself. I was like, yo, this is kind of weird, bro. Like, hop off me, you know, like hop off me. Like, I was a kid. I was like, yeah, I'm still low-key a kid, but like I was like, yo, hop. Like, personally, like inside my mind I was like, yo, this is kind of weird. Like, it's kind of like, why are you on me so much? So like personally, like I was like slowly starting to hang out with him less, because I was like, yo, this is kind of weird, bro. Why you on me, yo, 24/7, bro? Like, because I was like, yo, every time I talk about somebody else, like, dang, bro, chill. Like, I'm not attacking you. I like hanging out with you too. Like, but I felt it. Like, other reasons, like, it's hard to explain, like, me using it, like, because it's kind of like unnatural. It's kind of like unconscious, like something you do. But I guess like I can see this like from me, like from a young age to like my like brothers. Like, let's see, one for example, like I guess like when my brother used to do wrestling, I liked the wrestling, I did it with him, but like I would just trash talk the crap out of him. Like, I would trash talk so bad. I mean, hey, I don't think it did nothing negative, because to be honest, like we be like Loki became rivals in that sport. But like in society, when we view like wrestling, especially like in American culture, when we view wrestling, it's kind of seen like dudes wrestling, for example. It's kind of seen as like fruity. I'm not gonna lie, like I call it fruity too, but like that is something like that's a it's we give it a negative term. Like imagine somebody wants to get into like wrestling, and you're like, that's a fruity sport. Like, that kind of hurts. Like, you know, it kind of hurts like them deep down. As like we're like negatively chopping that like down. We're like we're like something like, say somebody has interest, like yes, they have interest wrestling. And then you're like, oh, it's fruity. It like lowers down. Like they might have like high interest now, like slightly lowers down. And the more you say it, or the more it's perceived, like instead of like supporting, it like fizzles out, you know. You can see this a lot. Another view I see a lot in society, especially in like Asian culture. Especially in Asian culture is when somebody shows interest in like another person. Usually, typically in the opposite gender. Somebody shows interest in them. First, right off the bat, I'm not gonna cap. A lot of parents be doing this. I'm not trying to throw any heat, but a lot of parents be doing this. They're like, oh, that girl you're seeing? I don't really like her. What the fuck? Hey? What? That's crazy. That's kind of crazy. That person did nothing. That's crazy. They're throwing heat. So you're like, now the person like that you wanted to maybe talk about, you're like, oh, I don't know. I don't want to talk about them. No. My parents could give it the same negative response they just gave me. They're giving that micro transgression, like that negative, like they're giving that negative like emotion instantly, right off the bat. A negative comment. You feel it, you're like, hold on, what the heck? So you like slowly fight away. It kind of nurtures you from a young age, like that you slowly stop doing like certain actions. Like some of the actions, yes, obviously. I think this is something good for humans, but also bad at the same way. I think they're both right currently, like in society. I think it's slightly things like I think bowling could be good, or like slowly corroding somebody to do something could be good. But how it's used in society, it's more up here in the negative aspect, and this is the good, and this is the bad. It's used more negative today in society, a lot more. For example, a lot like is like hobbies. Like I said before, like example wrestling. Another hobbies that we do is usually kids a lot, but it's also like grown-ups. Like we always, as humans, we're searching to find a new hobby. But sometimes when we're looking at a new hobby, like we're still like new to it. Like obviously, we're trying to see if we like it. But as we're like dipping our toes into the water, we're getting these negative comments like, oh, it's not worth it, you know. Oh, you should not join this, you know. It's not worth the pain you're going for. Like, what are you talking about? Like, what? Like, I remember recently, like, since I'm a language learner, a lot of people talk so much trash about other language learners. I'm like, eh? What is wrong with you? I'm like looking, I'm like, eh? What's going on with this person? Like, I was eating food today, recently, with a friend at lunch. We were just chilling. Like, I was practicing my best in Japanese. But this, like, group over us, they were talking, and I could tell they're, like, beginner Japanese, because they were just talking about Japanese classes. They were talking about Japanese classes, and it got to this point, me and my friend were talking, but we just stopped. We were like, oh, well, let's go listen to them. It's one of my Chinese friends. I'm not gonna lie. The reason I say Chinese friends because he can't speak English, so like he can listen to English. That's why I wanted to bring it up. So we were listening. He was like, oh, he told me, he's like, oh, let's listen. So I was like, okay. He's listening. He was like, oh, it's good listening practice since I basically never speak English with you. I'm like, okay, yeah, sure. Okay, so we're listening, and these people, I swear, they sound like Americans, but like they definitely were not Americans. It was like, oh yeah, this American guy in this class, I hate this dude. I was like, that's what got us to listen. So they're like, I hate this dude. I was like, yo, this is crazy heat. They're like, yeah, this guy, man, he's so good at like Japanese. Why is he in this class with us? And then the other guy was like, oh, it's because this person failed, obviously. See, when he speaks, he has that stutter. I'm like, whoa, that heat is crazy. I remember it was one time in class, this is what they said, word for word. I remember it was one time in class, he's speaking Japanese really fast. And I told him to slow down or just be quiet because I don't want to hear him. What? That's crazy. I remember eating food, we were chilling, and like, I kind of was like, I was trying to hold my laugh in, but my friend just like looking at me. He was like, "Yeah, you heard that too?" I was like, "I heard that too." So I'm like, almost dying. I had to turn around. I'm like dying laughing because this dude gave me the craziest. My friend gave me the craziest bombastic setup. And we're like, "Holy crap, that's crazy!" And we're like, "Yeah, the heck, like." For language learning, like, why are people like nodding people down? Like, just because like they might seem at a higher level than you doesn't mean they actually are. Like, there's different levels. Like, it's like a field, you know. There's certain aspects you can be really good at, certain aspects you can be straight dog water at. Like, just because somebody's really good at one thing doesn't mean they're good at the other thing. Like, take for example, for games, when I play games like FPS shooters, I'm very good at like finding spots like a great, like, take for example Valorant. I'm good at finding like high ground spots, or spots where I can see the enemy that the enemy can't see me, but my aim is not that good. So I can bring my advantage up here to make it seem like I'm good, but my aim is not that good. So like, I expose my weakness gets exposed, but it also gets fixed up by other things that I'm also really good at. It's the same like in like language, I guess. Like, certain aspects I'm decent at, like reading and writing, but my listening and speaking's not that good. So to some people, I might seem very good at Japanese, and then some others, I'm like straight garbage to them. I'm like, whoa, you know, there's obviously different things people can be good at. Don't just straight instantly trash or like give a negative comment without, it might not seem negative to you, but it's kind of negative. Like, oh, this person's alright. Like, what the heck? This person's alright. That low-key, like, it'd be damaging. But hey, it might be damaging to others, you know. If you get those comments, you know, still push. You should still try to push for what you want, you know. Don't give up just because everything else is negative around you. You know, it's unfortunate, but like, you know, that's what kind of happens sometimes. And other reasons, like, I'm trying to figure out like, why do people do this? From my viewpoint, why I see people like negatively or like unconsciously like doing it. Like, I'm gonna try to help people slowly get out of it. It's a habit, like, because it's a habit, but it's unconscious, so it's difficult to get rid of. You know, we're nurtured from it from a young age. I think the reason people like unconsciously like try to peg people down is because they're either jealous, or like, in my opinion, I think the biggest reason other than jealousy is they want them to be more similar to them. Like, that sounds kind of strange. Let me try to reword that. They're trying to make somebody as close as them. Like you're trying to find your ditto. Like, if somebody's similar to you, the more similar they get to you, the more excited and eager you are to hang out with them. The more closely you're related, like you feel related to somebody, the more you want to hang out with them. But when they slowly start to differentiate from you, you kind of feel like you're losing that connection you had. It feels really awkward, like it starts breaking, like the wall is starting to break apart. Like, you feel like you're losing that connection you had with them. But the truth is, you're not losing that connection you had with them. The connection was always there. It's just that we as humans we're different people. But sometimes it's kind of difficult to like internalize that we're different people. We're always trying to fight to become the same person. Like, take for example, a lot of people do this. I do this a lot too, but it's something I started to do a lot less recently. Like, when you're getting introduced to somebody new, you're always trying to find things that relate to them. So like, take for example, like you're listening to a song, and you're like, oh yeah, I listened to that song too. And then the person's like, oh really? I love this artist. And instead of you're not trying to make it awkward, so you're like, oh yeah, I listened to that person too. So like, let's say they're listening to Taylor Swift's like new album, and you're like, oh yeah, I love that album. You just said that like unconsciously. You're like, oh yeah, I love that album. Maybe you do know some songs, but in the most part, you're not a full veteran in detail like them. They're gonna like start talking about the hobby, and they're like, oh yeah, I kind of. You're like trying to like keep that connection. You're trying to like find more things like, because the wall's currently right here since it's a new person. You're trying to find things to get more closer to them. The truth is like, instead of like trying to get closer like this, you can say, oh yeah, I listened to the song. But the truth is like, yeah, just say you like listen to the song. Don't be like, oh yeah, I've listened to this like album. Like it's just like straight up capping. Like, you know, we are different people. It's fine to be different people. Whatever like you do is a hobby. It's like it might straight up be different than somebody else. Just say you do that. Like it's fine. You don't have to do everything else to become that person. Stop trying to chase to become that other person, because it can lead to a lot of these times, these transgressions. For me, when viewing this like problem in society, this like gap of despair, like it's usually seen for me, from my perspective, in areas like friendship, family, things that you want to create bonds with. Like you have that initial bond, but as time goes on, that initial bond slowly will like withers off. Like it's still there. The string is still there. Like imagine a like invisible string, like an invisible golden string. It's there. That bond, these memories can never go away. They're always there. I think we get scared that like we're gonna lose what we already had. The truth is, you will never lose what you really had. It's always there. The memories will always be there. Even if one or the other forgets, like it's still there. You still left your imprint on the universe. It's still there. But we could see it slowly fade away and we get scared. You feel like you're losing that like emotional bond, like that connection with them. And it is a scary process, because yes, this is all things I think every human goes through. In the end, instead of like making these, once you figure out like are slowly fading away from making these negative snark like comments, the best way to like fill that gap, because we're always trying to say something, the best way to like fix or like patch it over, if somebody is like exploring an interest or like something interesting to them, try, even if you do not like it, maybe try to make them more engaged. Like try to feel like, at least for that moment, like try to make it seem like you actually care. For example, like one of my friends loves to talk about religion. Me personally, I'm like, yo, I deep down I'm like, yeah, I don't care. Religion, yeah, I don't care. But him, he's like, I'm like, okay, yeah. I'm listening, I'm like, okay. And I'll like try to give him general questions to like make him like more like excited to talk about it, because like this dude will ramble on for like 30 minutes of it. Like recently he was talking about like Mormonism. And when he's talking about Mormonism, I was trying to like since I love horror, but I'm not really a big fan of religion, so I was like trying to add horror elements. Like I was trying to make it, I was like, oh yeah, the way you're making Mormonism sound is like, it sounds like a cult to me. He was like, oh my god, like you're telling me it does sound like a cult. And like he got even more excited. Like he was like now shifting the conversation to like make me more enjoyed to listen to it now too. Like I was trying to like find like pieces where I can like enjoy it, but also like see from his perspective why he likes it. And like I was like, hold on, this is like not bad. Like instead of me like just like listening with a half ear, like, I'm actually listening and like learning some interesting things from this conversation, and also like spitting in a way where I enjoy it, but also he enjoys it, but also in a way like I'm like leaving my comfort zone of like interests and hobbies I like and learning something new. That's all I have to say. Peace.